Hi, I'm Jeremy Crosby.
And I'm Nick Boucher. We're your hosts for the program that's all about your city, Talking Fitchburg.
Every weekday, we pull together the news, events, and information you need to stay on top of what's happening in the city of Fitchburg.
Find Talking Fitchburg on cable TV, Roku, Amazon Fire, Apple TV, and our live stream on the web. Plus, you can find all our headlines and stories on Facebook, YouTube, and our video on demand service. This is your city.
Keep up with Talking Fitchburg and the issues affecting you and your neighbors.
Want to know what's happening in your city? Get Notify Me messages from the City of Fitchburg. Visit fitchburgwi.gov on your computer or mobile device and select the big Notify Me button on the left. Enter your email and/or phone number, whichever is best for you to get notifications. Scroll down the list and select all the topics you're interested in to receive email or text messages about. You'll be notified every time one of your topics is updated. Sign up for Notify Me, one more way to keep up with your Fitchburg government.
Welcome. We'll call to order this meeting of Fitchburg Board of Public Works for September 15th, 2025, held here in the Francis Huntley Cooper Council Chambers. Tonight we have our full quorum. Don, Kim, Dave, myself, and Alder Jets are all here. Next brings us public appearances for non-agenda items, and we have one. We have Dan Barr, former Alder and former Chairman of the Board of Public Works, would like to speak on traffic lights on Fish Hatchery and Post and the lights at McKee and Seminole Highway. Dan, we'll turn it over to you.
Hey, thanks. I'm not here to complain. I'm just trying to give information. I want the citizens to have information. And, you know, I've noticed this, and this maybe was going on when I was an alder and when I did serve on this committee. And I'm talking about the lights. If you're at the intersection, say, of Post Road and Fish Hatchery Road, Post Road, and the next street up would be, I think, Greenway Crossing, so Post Road and Greenway Crossing. And then also McKee Road and Seminole Highway, I haven't noticed a problem there. One of the things I did notice and didn't think much about it for a couple of years, it's been going on, and I thought maybe initially when this took place, it was after the construction of Fish Hatchery Road, the reconstruction had concluded. But I noticed that in a lot of cases, what you'll have when you turn against traffic, so you are looking at an arrow, and typically there's either traditionally we've had an arrow and you have a green arrow, which would indicate go, a red arrow, which would indicate stop, or a yellow arrow, which would indicate you got to get your butt through the intersection, but you're kind of on, you're on borrowed time, you got to get going. To let you, it's your grace period time. That's been the traditional model. And so I didn't think much of that, but that has been something that I saw at those particular intersections. And then as time has gone on, I didn't think much about it. But then I live in a condo. I live in the Yarmouth Woods condos on Yarmouth Greenway Drive, and we do have some senior citizens in our complex. I'm also on that board. But nonetheless, a couple of the residents said, Dan, are you still on the city council? Are you still involved? I said, well, no, but I do follow it, and I do keep in contact with some of those folks. And they said, Dan, they brought this issue of the lights. And right now, instead of the red, solid green, or solid yellow arrow, you sometimes have a blinking yellow arrow. And so what I did, I reached out, because I know Dave's on the committee. I emailed Dave. He's an alder. I emailed my alder, is Gabby Gerhart. I contacted Gabby, the two of them, and they've been looking into it. And based on some of the feedback I've gotten, this is sort of a new policy. And I think, and I wanted to bring it up for your discussion, and hopefully maybe the city will talk about how this should be done. So what I found, based on the feedback I've gotten, and both Dave and Gabby responded, the feedback that I've gotten is that you're sort of leaving the person to their discretion. If I'm going to turn against traffic, let's say I'm on Post Road, and I'm going to take a left south onto Fish Hatchery Road, and there's oncoming traffic, and I got a blinking yellow light. Obviously I wouldn't want to go, but I'm going to use my discretion. That's sort of, I think, the new policy. However, if we have a situation where it is blinking and there is oncoming traffic coming the other way, assuming the through light is green, if there's no traffic, I can use my brain and decide whether I should go or not. But that's a new policy. And I also noticed this when I was out in McFarland, went out for dinner, and I saw they have the same thing. They have a similar setup. And so I think it varies community by community. But it's, when I took driver's ed years and years ago, this was not a thing, it was not a huge thing. And so that's why I contacted some of our representatives. I haven't talked to Julie or anything, but I'll bring it up to her next time I see her. But I do think that it's something that I want to, maybe the city council, the Board of Public Works, and some of the staff, and I think it's a fine policy. I'm not criticizing it at all. I just think there maybe is a lack of public awareness. Seeing as I'm the former chair of this board, I didn't know about it, and I didn't know how to handle it. And I had some of my neighbors who were wondering about it. I think maybe like an article in the Star might be the way to go from the department, maybe some of the elders or the mayor or a combination thereof, to inform the public about the policy and I think maybe to just let the public know, that policy, a blinking yellow light means use caution, but you can proceed through the intersection if you're turning against traffic is how I would put it. So that is what I wanted to discuss with all of you. And I want to thank all of you because I did serve on here, and I always used to fight traffic coming from work downtown on the Beltline to get here on time. So thank you for all your do, whether you're on a committee or on the city council, for your service. That's all I got.
Thank you, Dan. I'll just mention, I've been working over in Milwaukee a lot, and I see it at major intersections in Milwaukee, like Burleigh and Highway 45. It's blinking. But I'd like Ross to talk about it. We didn't always have this, I don't think, and maybe give us an update, and maybe the board can come to a little discussion, maybe a path forward on Dan's recommendations.
Yes.
And thank
I
you
gotta
for coming, Ross.
I gotta hit my microphone button, like Scott says. So in order to kind of explain this more thoroughly, I put together a couple of slides on this, and basically to start off, that kind of traditional signal type that Dan was talking about is called a protected left turn. So oncoming traffic has a red light, and if you're turning left, you get a solid green arrow. So there's no conflicting traffic there at a protected green left turn. There's another type that Dan also talked about, the permissive or permitted left turn. Oncoming traffic has a green light. Left turn traffic must yield to that oncoming traffic. So if there is an accident, the left turn is almost always at fault. And that is signified by either a flashing yellow arrow or a solid circular green. And that flashing yellow arrow is the kind of newer indicator here. The circular green has been around for a long time, longer than Fitchburg has been a city. So that has been in operation throughout the country for many, many years. This is a kind of PSA that the city of Madison put together when they started using this flashing yellow arrow on the permissive or permitted left turns. This is from 2010, so that shows you how long these flashing yellow arrows have been around in Dane County and Madison in particular. So it kind of lays out that these flashing yellow arrows are safer than just giving the solid circular green, because it kind of indicates better what's happening at the intersection. If you've got a green light, sometimes people think that means you can just go. If it's a flashing yellow arrow, you're under some sort of caution, you need to yield to oncoming traffic. But it also provides less delay than the protected left turns with the solid green arrow, because the rest of the traffic at the intersection doesn't need to come to a complete stop just for a small volume of left turning traffic. This is just the second page of that PSA and kind of goes over what I just said. So I also have some images of some of the signals in Fitchburg. So this one's Fish Hatchery at Lacey Road. So northbound, there is the permissive circular green. If you look at the kind of left-hand signal head in that picture, you can see that there's no arrows on that signal head. There's no way for it to have a solid green arrow or a flashing yellow arrow. There's just the three solid circular lights. And then southbound at that same intersection, there are arrows underneath the red, yellow, green solid signal head. The top one is a solid yellow arrow, and the green solid arrow is illuminated there. So that one is can either be a permissive circular green if the solid green arrow is not illuminated, or a protected left turn if the green arrow is illuminated. This is Fish Hatchery Road at East Sherrill Parkway. This is basically the same setup, just showing that there's kind of a few locations on Fish Hatchery where we have this setup. And then McKee Road at South Seminole Highway. So this is east and westbound, so on McKee. This signal was installed in 1997. There were modifications made to it in the mid-2000s, but the operation has been the same since it was installed. So this one has a protected solid green arrow, and it also can go into the permissive flashing yellow arrow mode, depending on like the pedestrian calls at the intersection and what all of the other detector loops indicate at the intersection. If you build up a bunch of cars in the left turn lane, it's going to go into the protected green, so it can clear that out. But normally it just sits in the permissive flashing yellow mode. So happy to answer any questions.
So where we use that, or do we have the sensor that's controlling it a little bit at all those locations, or?
Not necessarily at all of the locations. At the McKee and Seminole Highway, we do, and at a lot of our newer intersections we do, but not at all of them. Like the Fish Hatchery Road intersections that I showed, those are older. They don't have as many detector loops.
Okay.
Ross, if I'm understanding the concern, you got elderly people that either want to bike or walk across. Are our signals adjusted that if I hit the pedestrian button, they preempt the permissive yellow?
Some of them are, some of them are not. So for example, the older signals, again, those would be, in general, the signals that may have a flashing yellow and a pedestrian walk sign going across that intersection at the same time. And it's the left turning driver's responsibility to look for both oncoming traffic and pedestrians in the crosswalk that they're crossing. But
Understood. These are newer locations.
Right.
So do these activate if a pedestrian hits the button, it'll knock off the permissive left turn?
I'm not 100% sure about McKee and Seminole, but at McKee and Fish, that signal does.
Okay.
I guess the only thing I would add, Mr. Chair, is I would just encourage the city. I think this is great. You anticipated me coming. Obviously, I talked to Dave and Gabby. I would just, some of you got newsletters, and you can do letters to the editor, the department, or the city, the elected officials. I would just encourage you guys, put something out there. You know, this is just good information. It's sort of like NBC. They used to have the more you know. You'd have a commercial, be like, they have a little, the more you know. You know, this is kind of one of those deals. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Dan. Appreciate you bringing it to our attention.
Enjoy your week and evening, Dave.
Thank you.
See you again.
Ross, before we're totally done with this, I understand the older signals. Once you replace them, I'm assuming they'll have the same pedestrian can preempt the left turns. Do you have a certain threshold where you'll automatically put those on, a certain volume, or
Like a pedestrian volume at
or
an
a car
existing intersection?
volume that you have, or maybe based on proximity to, you know, high volume pedestrian activity? I mean, we may not have quite there, but if you have elderly, the timing for the crossing is not enough for an elderly typically to get shuttle across fast enough.
So we don't have any solid guidelines, like if it's over, we don't have anything that's if it's over X number of pedestrians per hour that we automatically put in like a protected pedestrian interval or anything like that. But we do in areas where we have either elderly residents or near schools where we have children crossing most of the time, we do lengthen our pedestrian intervals from, I don't know the numbers off the top of my head, but it's something like 20 seconds to 30 seconds.
Anything else?
Is there a recommendation we want to give? Because I would err on the side of caution, to be very proactive on that and put them in all our new installed signals, not wait for certain thresholds or volumes. What it'll do, yes, the turning cars may queue up a little bit, but it's still better than them watching the cars to move, because they're not always looking at the people crossing there. That if we be more proactive, that would be well worth our effort.
And make that an action item for you too. Bill?
As long as you're here. There's a leading pedestrian interval at Chapel Valley when you're crossing McKee. That's the only one I'm aware of. Is there a story behind that? Are we experimenting? Are we planning on, is this part of Vision Zero?
No, it's not part of Vision Zero or anything. That's been there for a while now. I'm not sure when that was.
Yeah, I hadn't noticed it until earlier this year.
But that's a very long crossing. Crossing McKee
Yes.
is a very long crossing. So having that leading pedestrian interval there makes sense to get pedestrians out into the road so right turning vehicles can see them and give them a head start crossing the, whatever it is, there's 6 lanes of traffic. So.
Okay, so we don't have plans to implement that elsewhere in the city?
We don't have any actionable plans right now. I would expect that with our comprehensive safety action plan, part of Vision Zero, that will be a recommendation, and it will be pretty easy to implement. Because leading pedestrian intervals just require some changes in the cabinet, in the traffic signal cabinet to the wiring and stuff. So.
Oh, okay, so that's not like, you can't control that remotely.
Not usually, no.
Interesting. Is that true with all of our newest infrastructure, intersection infrastructure?
At the newer cabinets, you can control some aspects remotely. I'm not sure if leading pedestrian interval would be one of those things. I usually defer to Jerry Shippa with Madison traffic on that.
I think a good discussion. See if we can, I'll look into maybe getting something in the Star to discuss about the arrow, just so people are aware. Next, we have our agenda item 4, report of the Director of Public Works, Mr. Tim Volker, PE. And the minutes. Oh, the minute. I'm sorry. A motion to approve the minutes from the September 8th meeting.
I'll move that we approve the minutes from the September 8th meeting.
I'll second it. Moved by Kim, second by Dave. Discussions, additions, corrections. I see a lot of head shaking. No. Call the vote. All in favor of approval of the minutes of September 8th, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The minutes are approved. Next, report of our Director of Public Works, Mr. Tim Volker, PE. Thank you, Ross. Appreciate you coming.
Just a quick note regarding our unidirectional flushing program. We'll be starting that back up again on September 22nd, which is a week from today, and we'll be starting in our east zone. And then we anticipate the flushing to be complete by October 27th, 2025. Then a couple project updates for this evening. I'll start with our Saline Road reconstruction project. Phase 2, the surface paving is complete. A walkthrough is scheduled for tomorrow on that project. And we're currently right now anticipating opening Phase 2 on Friday, September 19th, which is this week. And then Phase 3 of that project, road base is anticipated to be installed this week, and the concrete curb and sidewalk is anticipated to be complete next week, as well as the street light bases. And then substantial completion for that phase is still anticipated for November 3rd, 2025. And then our 2025 street maintenance project, that's our crack filling and chip seal project. The chip sealing has been complete. The contractor will complete the crack sealing roads in the next couple of weeks. And then the project is on track to be completed by the end of this month. And then for Fitchburg Road reconstruction project, the TPP, the Transportation Project Plat, has been complete and is on tonight's agenda for discussion. And then lastly, on Fish Hatchery Road, Dane County Highway Department will be repairing the concrete along Fish Hatchery at the Lacey Road and East Sherrill intersections. Work started today for that and is anticipated to last through October 16th. So with that work, there'll be periodic lane closures and some delays. We anticipate the road will stay open pretty much the whole time, and then consider alternate routes when possible. With that, does anyone have any questions?
Yeah. Bill? And this is a parks-related thing, but maybe you know. What's going on with Tower Hill? It seems like it's been under construction forever.
I don't have the dates with me. I can check with it. But I believe all the parks projects, we got a couple going on, are all anticipated to be completed here within the next month, so by the end of October. So okay. Even though there is work there, that it still is moving forward as planned. I haven't heard of any delays associated with that project.
So it's still on schedule?
Still on schedule.
Interesting. Okay.
We're talking the shelter, Bill?
The shelter, yeah. It just, I think the entire season it's been unavailable, and that's, well, I mean, it's an entire season. A little disappointing.
Tim, just for my education, if anything, we flush fire hydrants twice a year. How often do we flush sanitary sewer lines?
Well, for the water main, which is what the unidirectional flushing program is for, we'll do a spring flushing and a fall flushing. So we'll go into we'll pick a zone and do it. So for this fall flushing, we're in the east zone, which is along kind of Fish Hatchery and McKee Farms Park area, and then kind of north of East Sherrill here. And then what we'll do is we'll, turn and close valves and kind of flush based on Strand Engineering came up with a program to kind of work from the water tower downhill to be more conservative and efficient with the water in the system. So typically twice a year.
Okay. And sanitary lines?
So that's a separate program. That's where we'll take our vacuum truck and jet those, and that's done. We do a third of the system every year. So basically, it'll take us 3 years to get through the city, and then we'll start back over the zone we started in 3 years ago.
3-year cycle. Okay. And then just another parks comment you might pass to them. The McKee tennis court we just built, I don't use it and I don't play on it, but a couple friends use it and they said there's some dead spots on there.
Okay.
I don't know if the parks follow up with the users at all and find out what we put in there is adequate or any
check
defects.
With them. I know it's still under warranty Do you know the specific
I don't know
location?
specific
Okay.
locations and stuff,
Sure.
but I just, you know, there was
Okay.
just 2 users of it, and I don't know if they just touch it base with some of the other users, and if multiple are saying, they'll say, yeah, it's this spot or that spot. I don't know where.
That's something I can look into.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that to our attention. We spent a lot of money to put that, something that was going to last longer, and I expected it would perform well. So thank you for bringing that to our attention. No, I'm on Parks, and we were not aware of that. Thank you, Tim. Next, we have agenda item 5 alpha, review of utility P card and check payments. Does anyone have any questions for Tim on these? I did not. Bill? No? Okay. Thank you for submitting those for our review. And it'll take us to our agenda items. First one, 6 alpha, resolution R 13225, approving the purchase of a 2026 plow truck chassis. Do you have a motion to approve?
I move approval.
Moved by Alder Jetzer. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Don. So this was scheduled in our replacements. What is it replacing, I guess, or is this in addition?
So this one would be replacing a 2011 International truck that we have, and basically what the rotation is, we have the salter or the brine that we put the brine on the truck. So there's a truck for that, and then also a spare truck. So those are our older vehicles. Okay. One's a 2008, one's a 2009. So one of those two would go to auction, and then the 2011 that this truck is replacing would be put either as the spare or as the truck with the salter, or the brine, excuse me.
Okay. When would we see the resolution for the accessories?
It would be, right now we have 3 trucks on order right now, where Monroe Truck, we recently awarded it to them a couple months ago, and we're looking to do a change order to utilize that same contract and get the unit pricing. So we're just waiting on confirmation from Monroe that they'll honor that unit cost price. And then this would be the 4th truck on that contract, and then we'd do a change order within the next couple months for that.
Okay, thank you. Board members?
I see on there that if you change the axle, it could be a change of price on it too also. It says the pricing may change if the axle configuration is changed.
Yes, and the tariffs can impact the changes too. So if we see a change, we'd come back with a change order for that in front of the board.
Thank you.
Bill?
Yeah, so this is sole source because they are apparently the vendor for Lakeside or for international trucks.
So we piggybacked off Dane County's advertised. They had a bid, and Lakeside International is honoring that contract price for us. So it was publicly bid just for Dane County. So we're piggybacking that contract and getting the price.
I was going to ask, is this the vendor that we've historically used?
Yes.
It is, okay. And I guess to piggyback off of Dave Herb's question, ballpark, what does it take to outfit one of these things? I don't remember.
The cost?
The cost, yeah.
So the chassis is $133,636, and then the other items, which is the plow, the box, the wing, and the hydraulics for that equipment's around $150,000. So you're almost $300,000 for a plow truck nowadays.
Any other questions? The city, very astutely, prudently, we budget for our replacement, so that we don't ignore it and then all of a sudden get hit with a larger, we plan to replace our equipment to keep it in workable order, but also get a good life out of it. The thing I'd ask is, have we been tracking how many hours hours of winter we're using our plow trucks. You know, I can't, it's not fair to you, you haven't been here that long, but, you know, I guess where I'm going, is like we're having fewer plowing events. Now, we still have to plow city, whether we have one or we have 30, you know, but I'd like some, you know, I guess you would probably like to compile some data on that.
Yeah, and we do have that data, so any time there's a snow or ice event, the guys that go out and work at these events code their time a specific way, so we can pull that data from our timekeeper software to see how much time and what each event is. Even though it is snowing less, what we're seeing more are the icy conditions, so we're not necessarily plowing snow, but we're out there salting or, you know, keeping the roads clear from that. So
that's good observation. Bill, did you have something else?
Just on a related note, did you or someone else from the Public Works Department happen to attend that webinar about the renewable diesel?
The renewable diesel, I had a conflict. I was unable to attend, and Mark was busy out in the field.
Okay.
But I did mention...
notice that's up on YouTube, so you could watch that.
Okay, yeah,
you could watch it at 2x.
We're definitely interested in watching, so I'll make a note here, and Mark and I will watch that.
Yeah, I watched just a few minutes of it. I just, you know, dragged the slider over, and there was some interesting talk about how they had initially tried biodiesel, but that required like $10,000 to $20,000 retrofit on each vehicle.
Wow. Okay.
And then they switched to renewable diesel, which is like made from the same, you know, raw materials, but is somehow more closely matches petroleum diesel, and so there were 0 modifications necessary for it. Which,
interesting.
Yeah.
Tim, do we have tow plows in our fleet?
How many?
Tow plows, do we have those in our fleet at all? For the multi-lane roadways and stuff where they
No, we just have the standard truck plows.
Okay. Anything we considered looking at? I mean, some communities that have the multi-lanes, they run one pass with a tow plow and a plow truck and are done.
Yeah, I don't believe that's something we looked at. We don't have many. The county, you know, like Fish Hatch, Fish Hatch we plow, even though it's a county road. But, you know, there's not many roads I don't think that we would utilize that for.
Okay.
Good discussion here. Bill, thank you for bringing that up about the renewable the diesel. I'd like to take a look at that too. Okay. All right, nothing else. I'll call the vote. All in favor of Resolution R 13225, approving purchase of 2026 plow truck chassis, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the motion carries. Next, 6 Bravo, Resolution R 16725, releasing a temporary sanitary sewer easement and a portion of a sanitary sewer and water main easement in Lot 115, the first addition to Oak Meadow Plat. We have a motion to approve.
I'll move approval of Resolution R 167-25.
Moved by Kim. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Dave. What has changed that we're releasing? Obviously, it was a temporary easement. What was completed that we don't need it anymore?
Yeah, so it's 2 parts to this. It was a public sanitary sewer and water main easement, and then also a temporary sanitary sewer easement. So when this plat was first completed on lot 115, it had these 2 separate easements, and then it was redeveloped into the Oak Meadow Reserve, and that's where the plat was changed to the 11 lots, so we had to reconfigure the sanitary sewer for that development. Therefore, it changed. We had a new easement as part of that development, and then these 2 easements are no longer needed.
Okay. Thank you. Assume the developer pays all these costs.
Yes.
Okay. Board, questions on this? I don't know how you can keep track of all these, but thank you for doing it. Okay. I'll call the vote. All in favor of Resolution R 16725, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
It is approved. Next, we have 6 Charlie, Resolution R 16225, approving relocation order and TPP related to the reconstruction of Fitchburg Road from Tonto Trail to Nesbitt Road. Do we have a motion to approve?
I move approval.
Moved by Alder Jetzer. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Kim. So again, there's acquiring right away and planning for this road. Will you give us the details?
So the 2025 capital improvement program includes funds to reconstruct Fitchburg Road from Tonto Trail north to Nesbitt Road. The city of Fitchburg has determined it necessary for public purpose to reconstruct this road with 2 travel lanes, 2 buffered bike lanes, and a multi-use path. It's necessary for the city and for public purpose to acquire property for the project for both permanent and temporary interests. This is a relocation order in accordance with subsection 32.0 parentheses 1 Wisconsin statutes and a determination of necessity in accordance with subsection 32.07 parentheses 2 Wisconsin statutes. The improvements will be built within the area as marked on the attached transportation project plat, the TPP, and we're looking for council to approve this relocation order.
Okay, board, I'll open it up. I'll let you guys go first.
Tim, do you have a time when that would start?
We're looking to bid the project in January and then award most likely in March and then start April-May timeframe of 2026 for this work. So next summer would be under construction for Fitchburg Road.
Well, the school route that I have goes right through there. I'm curious as to it's going to be tore up before the end of the school year? Or?
And that's something we'd work through to, typically there's submittals and paperwork, contracts, insurance that we have to get from the contractor. So if we were to award in March, April, that first month, not much really happens out in the field. That it's something we could hold off till school's out or work with the school district on their bus routes for that.
Thank you.
Bill?
Yeah, so we need to have this approved before we can move ahead with the actual property acquisition?
Yes, for the negotiations to
For the
start.
negotiations to start. So I guess I was under the impression that this was happening like last year already.
The negotiations?
Yeah.
Well, what we did, we've done the background search. So we've title reports, appraisals, the survey information for all this has been completed. The surveyors also met with, or the appraisal company has kind of gone over the easements with the property owners. So
Okay,
we'll actually
that's what I'm thinking
stake it out,
Yeah.
kind of discuss, let them know it's coming, but negotiations haven't commenced yet.
And remind me again, there's what, like 21 property owners or something like that?
Yeah, looks like I counted about 20 properties that are impacted either with a temporary limited easement, a permanent limited easement, or purchasing of their property for a fee.
And I presume all those temporary easements are, there's going to have to be restoration.
Yes.
And, yeah, okay. So we'll see what people feel about that, I guess, as always.
Is the city doing the acquiring of the property, or is the consultant hiring someone?
So AECom's the engineering consultant, and then First Title Company is the appraisal? Terra Venture, and then the title company was First Title. So Terra Venture would be doing the negotiations on behalf of the city, and then staff obviously is reviewing the purchase price prior to executing any checks.
So since you've had some discussions with these people just to educate them on what's going on and what's going to be, are you anticipating any controversial parcels that may go to condemnation, or has it been fairly receptive?
I haven't heard of any. Sure. I'll have Ross come up. He's been more in the day-to-day.
So for this project, there may be one or two property owners who are not receptive to this. There are, one of them is a fairly small property acquisition, so we're thinking that we can modify the project a little bit to get around having to acquire that property. And that's just a temporary limited easement. So it's honestly a pretty minor impact on the property owner in my mind, but I also don't own that property, so that's for them to decide. And then the only other places where I would remotely anticipate pushback is around the roundabout, where we have to acquire bigger sections of property because the roundabout obviously goes wider than the existing roadway.
Okay. The reason I was asking is because if, that always takes longer when you go through that whole process and you have to have it all acquired before you can, start construction, or even, I'm not sure, even in the bidding process, or before you can award the contract maybe. But so I was just, because you're in sort of a tight time frame if you're starting now, 1st of October-ish, and then you want to, bid and start construction early in the spring. So I was just wondering, a lot of times you get some kind of a feel for if the property owners are going to be agreeable or not. And that's pretty typical that there's one or two that you're going to have to work around. So thank you.
Is that new roundabout going on Fitcherona Road and Lacey? There's one building there that sits awful close to Fitcherona Road where you're going to put that roundabout in. That you may be getting into pretty deep unless you can go the other side of it. But then there's all open field past that on the
so the
east side.
The center point of the intersection is actually moving northwest. So we do have to acquire some property on that corner where that building is,
right.
the Remica building. But yeah, if the center of the intersection was at the same spot, that building would have to be demolished.
Right.
So we moved it to the northwest to avoid it.
Northwest. Then you're going to get awful close to that apartment building going that way too.
So northwest, so to the Verona side.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Your best would be to do everything once you get past that house, though, is to take the land from the other side, from the east side of Fitcherona Road, right? Because it's all open field.
No, there's no intersection there, though.
No, but I'm talking about they're going to widen it all the way up to Tonto Trail. And that's up and over the hill.
So for the roadway, all of the roadway improvements, including the multi-use path, fit within the existing right-of-way. So besides at the roundabout, we don't have to purchase any right-of-way for the road, even though it's wider. The right-of-way is just already fairly wide in this area.
So it's already there. Thank you.
Russ, it's wide enough underneath 151, because the pillars are there. I can't imagine, I don't know where the bike path would go, unless you're going up, you're moving up the incline inside the pillars. Is it wide enough, I guess, is what I'm pretty
There it's not wide enough. So we have to put in a retaining wall under all three of the Military Ridge State Trail, bridge, and the two Highway 18-151 bridges. So right now the abutments come down at about a 45-degree angle towards Fitcherona Road. And we have to put in a retaining wall to hold those bridges up so we can fit the multi-use path where the current abutment is behind the pillars.
Understood. Then do we need a buffered bike lane on the road? We got the path there. There's no buffered bike lanes on Nesbitt. Once it gets past Tonto, there's nothing. I use the damn path. Is what leave enough. I fought this on McKee Road, and I just don't think I don't think it's necessary. If we got a path there, we don't need to have a buffered bike lane on that road. You don't want to be on there anyway on your bicycle. That's my opinion. I know
Some
Steve
people
Arnold and
do.
his allies will call me the devil again for suggesting this. But
So the buffered bike lane also serves as an area for disabled vehicles to pull off.
so you're
they're
just
not
going to have
blocking the
you're just
roadway.
going to have a paved shoulder, or are you going to add another 4 feet width for the buffer between? I have no problem with a 4 foot paved shoulder, Ross. I think you know that.
It's a 2 foot buffer and then a 4 foot bike lane, so it's 6 feet total.
It's 4 feet extra width. I don't feel is necessary. That's the same way it was on McKee Road, and I'm just going to add. Bike Fitchburg will come and call me the devil again and say, well, they're performance bicyclists and they can't be troubled to be on a trail with walkers and bicycles. And I say, grow up or write some goddamn checks. To be honest with you, if we put in a paved path for that small section, you can get up on the trail or you can get through. Or you can ride on a 4 foot paved shoulder. You don't need a buffer there. That's my point of view. And I know the people in yellow shirts, thousands of them will show up in council and call me the devil again. But like to see some sanity into this discussion about this. You can ride on a 4 foot paved shoulder. I do it all the time. I feel I can do it safely. And if you don't feel safe, then go on the paved path. Why we got to put a buffer there for them? I'm sorry, I said enough.
Are we going to have all that water problem cleared by the time they're doing that? There's always water running across there, especially when it rains heavy underneath them bridges.
So as part of this project, there's stormwater infrastructure going in, but separate from this project, there's a stormwater improvement project for Goose Lake that's going to be happening simultaneously to help relieve that flooding, so that those issues would be resolved.
You've done some small things already, though, haven't we? There was some culvert under you did some small things that have improved it. I think we haven't had as much problem this year.
No, and
Maybe
I
we
know
haven't had the
Ben's
rains
installed
either.
a couple modules.
If we have to go to condemnation, is the town of Verona on board with us, or is that a different cog that we got to work through?
So there should not be any condemnation necessary on the town side of the project. It's all temporary limited easements or Dane County or public land on the town side of the road. The only area where I would be concerned about that on the town side is at the roundabout. And because the right-of-way that we would be acquiring is for a piece of bike infrastructure, it's the kind of slipway around the roundabout. We can't condemn for that anyway. That's state law. So if we run into issues with that, then we would most likely modify the project to remove that piece of infrastructure.
Any other questions on this? We know this won't be easy. I don't think it'll be easy. Hopefully it's not too much of a struggle to get these, but it's never I don't think it's ever a pleasant. Kim would probably, and Don would probably attest to this. It's anytime. Hopefully you can avoid any condemnations, but go down that road. Go ahead, Bill.
Yeah. So, assuming this gets approved, and then again at the council meeting next week, how soon do we think we could put this out for bids? And if you have trouble with property owners or whatever and it stretches into spring, are we going to wind up with one bidder who's 30% over the engineer's estimate or something?
Good question.
Well, like Kim was kind of alluding to, we're not going to put this out to bid till the negotiations are complete on every piece of property.
Right.
So, I mean, if it takes us to spring, that's holding up us going out to bid, unfortunately. We do still have a little design work. The sewer originally was going to be lined as part of this project, but we'll be actually putting in a new sewer pipe as part of this project, so that we do have a little design work, but don't anticipate that being the critical path to getting this thing out to bid. It's going to be the negotiations. So if negotiations take us longer, yes, that could potentially put us into spring putting this out to bid, which could limit the contractors, but we'll have to see how this all plays out.
Ideally, when would you like to see this bid? Is it like
January? We'd like to advertise it and
Okay.
have bids due probably in February.
Bill, thank you for raising that. That's good. Sure. Anything else? All right, then we'll call the vote. All in favor of I've lost my cursor here. Hang on.
162.25.
All in favor of Resolution R 16225, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Next, our next Board of Public Works meeting is, if I can page down, my scroll would work here.
October 6th.
Is October 6th. So if you can't make it, please let us know. That I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I so move we adjourn.
Moved by Wilburn. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Don. All in favor of adjournment, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? We are adjourned at 6:21.